before being in real estate, like I was not a social media guy. And even though I've grown up in the social media age, my first inclination is not to post about my life. But I had a fundamental shift early on in my real estate career, which is that I'm a business owner and homegrown real estate is my business. Like when I went into real estate, I thought I was just an individual real estate agent and my only job was to work with buyers and sellers, and that's all I did. And I looked at what I do like with these blinders on. And you know what people love in America? Business owners. Look on TV, you got Shark Tank, you got Bar Rescue. Like people love watching businesses thrive and fail. Then everything changed because I didn't see this as like, oh, I gotta like post this thing because I want to share this thing about my personal life. It was like, I want to post this thing because I want my business to grow. And in the beginning, especially if you're an individual real estate agent, is your life and your business, at least for me, is so intertwined with, like I meet, we do like my family, we do a lot of stuff in Durham. Like we go out, we go to the street festivals and we go to concerts and we go to family picnics and we see people out. So I'm just posting like what I'm doing in downtown Durham. So people see me as an expert in the area. They know that I know they see me as someone who knows what's going on. That builds trust. And that's also where I grow my business because I take my business with me everywhere I go.
You're listening to the number one real estate podcast in the world. We talk with real estate professionals all across North America about their wins, losses, lessons, stories, help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined by Vikram of the Real Estate Sales Academy, who just loves cutting me off in the very beginning. You might have not heard the cutoff in the very beginning because
you didn't.
We have great editors that can make Vikram sound a lot better than he actually is. And,
wow. I'm pretty sure it's my team that does the editing. I'm pretty sure it's my team that does the editing. So you guys could just cut Cody completely out of this episode. It is not necessary.
I disagree.
Cody.
I disagree with that. Vikram, but can you pick up, do I have to teach you how to podcast as well? Do you want to pick up your microphone so I can hear what you're saying?
Dude, so we're in Medellin, Colombia, for those of you who have not been following us. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. We excited to have you here. But we are in Medellin, Colombia, and my stand broke after 9 countries and like 50,000 miles. It finally gave
There's
out on
an
me.
Amazon for that. Yeah, like why don't you use Amazon?
I tried taping it up. Well, if you would let me finish my story and stop cutting me off so rudely, Cody. I almost called you our guest name because I'm reading his name instead of yours. But what I did do was I ordered something on Amazon, and what I did not realize, because it's the first thing I've ordered on Amazon in maybe like a year, it takes 2 to 3 weeks for things to ship all the way over here. So I was like, oh, I'll just go get a mic stand, no big deal. And then I looked at the dates and I'm like, oh crap. So I ordered one, and then I tried to go to like the local stores that are around us that have audio video, but nobody has a mic stand that connects like on a clamp. So I ordered a really good one because, when we got started, I didn't know that we were going to be traveling, and I didn't know that we were going to be doing like 400 episodes. This is made out of plastic, and the new one I have is made out of metal, so hopefully it doesn't strip.
The good road ones.
That's what it is. It's a road one. It's a road.
Those ones are sick. It's just they're just so big to travel with. But like don't really care because you travel. You travel with. You should have asked me, man. Like you should have asked the guy who sets up the podcast. Is this a good idea in order to buy this? This really large. Like it's massive, man. Like it's meant for like a podcast studio. It's not meant to like travel. Like it doesn't really wrap up that well either.
I don't think
so like
I'm really meant to travel either though, because like
you're really
I need
not.
a home.
You're really not.
Yeah, I got a road bike here. I have a bicycle, a hyperbaric chamber here. I brought my own air filter here. I have my Nano V here. I have a red light device here. I have like 16 lights as well here. I don't think I'm as mobile as, I think my nomad days were last year. Now I'm pretty situated here in Medellin for the next 12 months.
And I think that'll happen to me probably within once I get my visa all situated.
I hope you are my roommate for a few months, because it's been really powerful having, just like being able to bounce ideas in real time. I'll share something. The value that one is we're super competitive. So when I hear you like help a client with a new offer or something, and I'm like, oh, that guy. And then I get on the phones and then I start working harder. So like, and then, the bounce off of just ideas. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about creating this framework for my clients. What do you think about that? Or like today you had a sales call that didn't go exactly the way you wanted. And just like while we're eating and, like we're doing 75 hard. So, just the gallons of water. It's like, I always see Cody at the water cooler now, which is really funny. Like the printer's in my bedroom. Yeah. The printer's in my bedroom. So like you should stay out of there. But now we see each other at the water cooler and we get to just bounce ideas off of each other, which is super cool. I think that's one of the things that I love about working like, inside of the Real Estate Sales Academy. A lot of people are like, oh, can we do one-on-one? And I'm like, you could. It's going to cost you double and a half the money. You're still going to need to go to the Real Estate Sales Academy training because like that's going to give you the foundational pieces. But if there's some other things you want to work on, by all means, we could do one-on-one. But what's really become cool with this group of people that I've been able to attract is that they're starting to form the bonds with each other, which we were missing in like some of our previous cohorts. And like, if you're part of the Facebook group, like the vibe is so different. The energy is so different. Everybody's communicating, everybody's helping each other. And it's become a really safe place because I don't know what you think from the people you talk to, but people feel like they can't be authentic. Oh, this actually is going to lead into our story today, which is not what it was meant to be. But people feel very inauthentic in the real estate space, and they don't feel like they have a safe place to talk about their problems, finances, relationships, the struggles that they're having. So I'm really proud of like this group of people that have come together, that they're so open and willing to help and share.
Yeah, man. It's been cool to like watch, like, and I'll just echo before we intro our guests, let's just echo that same sentiment around just this idea that we're so much better around, we're better, we become better people, we become better salespeople, we become better entrepreneurs, we become better marketers when we're in community with other salespeople, other marketers, other entrepreneurs that are either ahead of us. And this is why I believe so much in masterminds and why I believe so much in reinvesting back into your business, because the amount of growth that I've experienced in the last like 5 years, I guess 6 years now, 5-6 years running my business, the largest portion of the growth came in 2020 when I made the decision to reinvest back into my business. So I agree with you, man. The last 3 weeks of like hearing you on calls, I'm like, oh, this guy just closed something. Like I need to go and work harder. So
you're kind of lazy, bro. You're kind of lazy.
Whoa,
I just want the world to know the truth. Like, you don't really like working very hard. You sleep at like, you wake up at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock, shut your mouth. Number one, it's called leverage, brother. It's called leverage. You hire people to help you do the things that you don't want to do. So without further ado, let's, oh, you're a piece of shit. Anyways, we have a very, very special guest.
I think he's scared of us right now.
Yeah, I think he is. I think Cory Sherman from North Carolina, Durham. When I saw the Durham on I immediately thought of like Durham region, Canada.
Me
and
too.
You said to me, is Cory from Canada? I'm like, Cory's not a Canadian. He's not a Canuck like me, but he is from North Carolina. Yeah, thank God, right? Cory, why don't you give us the Cliff Notes version of how you got into real estate, the days of, I think you said San Francisco. Give us everything. Give us all the good stuff.
Yeah, all right. So I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. I moved to California for 5 years. That's where my wife is from. I spent my time in California. I was a professional tricycle driver, also known as a pedicab operator. So my job was to bring tourists basically around the big tourist sites in San Francisco and bring them to the Giant Stadium and bring them to shows. And it was a magical 5 years. I mean, it was an awesome way to make a living. It was hard, but it was super fun. I also got into the beer and wine industry in San Francisco. And when I moved back to North Carolina to be closer to my family, I was bartending at like a craft beer spot that my friend's parents owned. I had a regular who used to come into that bar who was a mortgage broker. He was hanging out one night kind of after hours. Things were winding down. And he was like, man, you should really think about getting into real estate. I think you'd be really good at it. And I was like, man, yeah, that's crazy, man. I don't know anything about real estate. And then in the same week, one of my friends that I used to pedicab with in California, he had moved to Salt Lake City, and he had just got a job as a showing assistant for this big team, this Keller Williams team in Salt Lake City. And him and I are really close, and it was all in the same week. He was like, man, I got this job with this real estate team, and he was like, I'm going to get my real estate license. You should get your real estate license. I think it's going to be, I think you'll be really good at it. So you hear something once, and you're like, whatever. And you hear something twice, you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe. And then I have a brother, my older brother lives in North Carolina, and he's a general contractor. And he had his license for a little bit, and then he went back to building houses. And I kind of think it was his master plan all along, because he was kind of planting the seed, like, hey, man, get your real estate license. And so within a week, basically 3 people were like, you should really think about this. So I looked into it. My wife was pregnant with our first child and, didn't want to be bartending when the baby was here, late nights out on weekends. So I went and got my real estate license, and I worked really hard to pass the real estate exam the very first time, because I know myself and I knew that if I had to take it a second time, that I was going to move on. So like, that was the commitment to myself. I was like, dude, you got to pass this thing, because I just know me and I just would have lost interest. So I got my license in 2017, and my wife and I had this big 6-week road trip planned. We moved to North Carolina. We were driving back to California to pick up the rest of our stuff and go to a wedding. And then we were driving back to North Carolina. So my plan was get the real estate license, go on my 6-week road trip, and then really hit the pavement when I get back. And the day before I left for the road trip, one of my friends from high school, she found this house on Craigslist. She knew that I had got my real estate license, and she said, can you help me buy this house? And I said, I could try. I'm leaving tomorrow for a 6-week road trip. So anyway, she was cool with it. We signed paperwork. She went under contract. We did the whole deal while I was on the road. I remember for her closing, we were staying in Olympia National Forest in Washington State. It was so remote, I didn't have any cell service. Her closing was at 9 a.m. Eastern time. I woke up from our campsite at 4 a.m., drove an hour to the nearest town so I could get cell service, so I could call her after her closing to make sure everything went smoothly. Everything was fine. Drove back to North Carolina, and I had the biggest commission check of my life waiting for me when I got back from my trip. And I was like, well, that's it. I'm a real estate agent now. There's no turning back after this. So obviously not every real estate transaction has gone as easily as that one, but I had a pretty good, my first deal was like the best intro ever. And now I do real estate full time. I was doing, dual career, a little bit of service industry stuff, real estate stuff. And I think a lot of people make this mistake. They say, well, like for me, I was bartending and I needed the cash. And I was still bartending, and then I was working with my buyers at the same time. And I went in on a Friday night. My clients really wanted to see this house, but I had, my big money shift at the bar on Friday. I was going to make, $120 and bust my butt doing it, like 6-hour shift. And told my clients, hey, we'll go see the house tomorrow. Worked all night, made my $120. The next day, the house was under contract. Missed out on a $7,000 commission. Bartend for $120.
Did they fire you?
They didn't fire me. No, they didn't fire me. We're in a really competitive... They didn't fire me. We're in a competitive market. Things move very quickly. But that was the day that I decided I can't do this halfway. I got to go all in. So I put in my 2 weeks notice the next day, and here I am.
So there's a couple things that we were talking about in the green room before we go into, the full-time, part-time thing, because it's super hard. One is, if you're listening to this and you're an agent or you're studying to get your license, save up some money. Like have a runway, right? Like cut your Netflix out, get rid of the luxury car you're driving, stop buying, go return stuff, go sell stuff. Like while you still have a job, right? Go make some money and put it away, because you're going to need money for coaching. You're going to need money for, buying signs. You're going to need money for your brokerage. You're going to need money for the MLS. You're just going to need more money than you think. So go save some shekels. Stop going out to the bar with your friends. Cory doesn't work there anymore, so he doesn't care that you don't tip him, right? Like he's fine with that. But like the first thing that I would say is super important, because not every story starts like Cory's. Most start like the exact opposite. I've been in the industry for 12 months. I haven't made any money. What am I going to do? I'm broke, no job, no nothing. Yours is kind of like a complete opposite story where somehow people started working with you. But we were talking about something earlier inside of the green room, and I want to go to that because to me, with what I'm seeing in this industry right now, one, transactions are in a recession, right? Like Cody and I talk about this with Sharon and a lot of other people, but in most markets, transactions have hit a recession, which means that they've dropped by 20%. So we already know that there's a limitation there. But you were talking about your image, because there's a lot of agents right now that don't do social because it doesn't feel authentic. They don't show up the way they want. And I get it. Like, when I'm on a sales call, I'm very different than after like you get to know me, right? Because you have to build the trust that, okay, this guy actually cares about me. So I get that. But like you were saying that like you had like what, crazy hair, you were scared you weren't going to be seen as a professional. And now, like you're doing exceptionally well from what it sounds like. Can you talk a little bit about how that mindset pivot worked for you, how you were able to create the safety in yourself to go do these things?
Yeah, I want to just clarify two things really quick. I got very lucky with that first deal, and it was like a little taste, and I was like, man, this job's the easiest. And then I had my several months before I got another one. And the second thing, Vicar, was I did not have crazy hair. I had beautiful hair. It was just really long. It's not what you see with your normal real estate agent. It was not crazy. No, it was really nice. It was, it was down, it was way past I was actually down to my chest. Yeah. So my reservation getting into real estate was that no one would take me seriously because they had this perception of me as the kind of traveler, pedicab guy, bartender guy. And I hadn't really held any professional positions before. And, when you make that transition, everybody talks about imposter syndrome. And I really, I really felt that. And my biggest fear, and that I was in the back of my mind, was like, I don't want to change who I am just to be a real estate agent, especially in the beginning where I didn't really know the power of this industry. And when I was going from bartending to real estate agent, I didn't want it to change me. And that was my fear. And what I found was that in my conversation with people, I learned that there's a real, like, the beautiful thing about real estate is that everybody needs a place to live. Like, everybody needs to buy a house at some point, or sell a house, or rent a house. And when they need to do those things, chances are they will speak with a real estate professional. And I started to learn that, like, there's a real estate agent for everybody. No matter what you're into, and no matter who your buyer and seller is, there's a real estate agent for everybody. And maybe there was some people who would be put off by my appearance or put off by the way I presented myself on social media, and they wouldn't want to work with me. And I came to the realization that there's a strong possibility that maybe we wouldn't work together well anyway. And the message and the brand that I was putting out was attracting people they were attracted to it. I was being authentic. I was being myself. I met clients at concerts. I met clients, in the early days when I started doing, I would just have a booth at breweries because I knew craft beer. Like, that was my scene. That's what I was in before this. And so I found that the more I leaned into that authenticity and the more I just did the things that I like to do, and the more I showed up at places that made me happy, the more I attracted business. And so now I'm very fortunate where it's very rare that I work with somebody. I get my cold leads off of Google, and, but most of my leads, they are either a referral from somebody who I already worked with and we already like each other and had a good time. And chances are, if they're referring somebody, the people they're referring are probably like them, so we get along. Or I get through social media, and those people have already vetted me. They know if they're going to work well with me or not because they see what I post and they see what I'm into and they see how I present myself. And then they're usually reaching out to me. So I've already overcome those objections.
The best marketing attracts and repels. And I think that a lot of agents get hung up on this. I have to post, or I don't know if they get hung up on it as much as they just don't know. They're either afraid to be seen starting small, or B, I think it's they don't know what they post or see. It could potentially be they're afraid what other people are going to think about them. But like I have that fundamental belief that all good marketing should, attract and repel. And it's like not everyone is going to like Cory. Not everyone is going to like Vikram.
Whoa!
There's a lot of people that don't like. There's a lot of people that don't like Vikram. There's a lot of people that don't. and there's a lot of people that don't like me. There's a lot of people that don't vibe with like what I have to say.
Doesn't like you today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But like I've come to realize that there are so many reasons why agents have a really hard time being authentic online, because there is that other element on the other side. And I want to get your way in on this, because I like Vic, and then I want to get your way in on this, Cory, because I think that like the idea of authenticity, I think Vic's done it very well, and it sounds like you've done it very well. It's just like showing up and being who you are. It's like, but I can see where, because for me, I didn't share a lot about my personal life in the beginning of, creating content. It's like, I just like, it's finding different pockets of like what you want to share and what you don't want to share. Like, what do you think can be the I guess the draw to sharing more and the drawback of sharing more about who you are? Because I think that for some agents, they're like, man, if I share this part of me, no one's going to work with me. And then there's that fear of like, okay, how do I know where the line is? Because a lot of people are like, Vic, you as an example, you have some pretty crazy points of view. So yeah, where do you guys weigh in on finding what should be shared and what shouldn't be shared? How do you be authentic truly authentic online? Go first, Vic, and then I want to hear what Cory has to say.
It's reps. And what I realized is, so I started sharing back when MySpace was a thing, and I'm very like emotional.
How old are you?
I'm I don't understand what you're saying, my friend. 41. So I started sharing when MySpace was a big thing, and my mom was like, why do you share so much? My mom still says that, right? But now she understands that that's just who I am. And my vision of myself is that I've been rich, I've been poor, I've been healthy, I've been not healthy, I've been happy, I've been depressed. I've had, testosterone levels of a dead woman. Like, I've lost girlfriend because, like everything was great, but I was so depressed that something downstairs wasn't working. And I share because other people that I've resonated with, I feel because of their vulnerability and openness, it's made me a better man. And so I share things that are uncomfortable to share, because to me, that feels like my truth and authenticity. And like when I talk to people who follow me, they say your message is about empowerment. It doesn't resonate with everybody, but that's just who I am. Health, wellness, right? Do hard shit, always growing, right? Always doing more, always trying to be a better person. And that's my version of what authenticity is for me. But did that come out right out the gate, Cody? No. And I'm sure Cory might have similar stories. He might not, but I have, even like 6 months ago, I went all business and I stopped making content because it was so boring. And now that I'm back into my element, like in the last 3 weeks, I've had probably 5 new clients come in because they said, we love your realness and your authentic. Like, obviously, how to sell. Like, obviously, that's apparent. But what we really care about isn't your sales videos. It's how you take a crazy video where you're in an ice bath or you're in like a weird situation and you create something that's relatable because we feel like we're there. And so that's my version of it. That's why I do what I do.
What about you, Cory? Because I'm curious to kind of like get your perspective on like the sharing element of like how far is too far to share. How does somebody even get like started? Because, there's so many invisible agents out there, and they know that they're invisible agents. They know that there's nothing out there online. How do you get somebody that's on the fence to be like, just be authentically you, because that's the best marketing?
I got a couple a couple of thoughts. They've kind of like, it's progressed over time as I've done it more. Before being in real estate, like I was not a social media guy. Like my first inclination is not to pull out my phone and record something and post it. It never has been. I mean, I'm a little bit younger than Victor. I'm 35. So when I was in high school, that's when Facebook came out. My senior year is when Facebook was like for high school students. And even though I've grown up in the social media age, my first inclination is not to post about my life. But I had a fundamental shift early on in my real estate career, which is that I'm a business owner now. And homegrown real estate is my business. Like when I went into real estate, I thought I was just an individual real estate agent, and my only job was to work with buyers and sellers, and that's all I did. And I looked at what I do like with these blinders on. And then I took a class with this woman, and she just changed everything. She said, "You're a business owner, and you know what people love in America? Business owners. Look on TV. You got Shark Tank. You got Rescue My Bar Rescue. Like people love watching businesses thrive and fail." And for me, when the shift came that I'm not posting about me, I'm posting about homegrown, and right now I'm homegrown, then everything changed, because I didn't see this as like, oh, I gotta like post this thing because I want to share this thing about my personal life. It was like, I want to post this thing because I want my business to grow. And in the beginning, I was like, the thing about real estate, especially if you're an individual real estate agent, is your life and your business, at least for me, is so intertwined with, like we do, like my family, we do a lot of stuff in Durham. Like we go out, we go to the street festivals, and we go to concerts, and we go to family picnics, and we see people out. So I'm just posting like what I'm doing in downtown Durham. So people see me as an expert in the area. They know that I know they see me as someone who knows what's going on. That builds trust. And that's also where I grow my business, because I take my business with me everywhere I go.
There was something unique that you said that I don't want people to miss. And it was like, I'm out in the community, and because I'm out in the community and I'm sharing that I'm out in the community, I'm doing things that builds the trust that I know about the community. And I think far too many real estate agents in local markets like Durham, North Carolina, and I'm sure, Vic, when you were in Bellevue, you were out doing things, you were connecting with people. There's an element of requirement, in my view, as a real estate agent, as a business owner, as a professional, because like even when I was living in Peterborough, Canada, if I were to go back to Peterborough, Canada, everyone knows who I am because I spent time living, playing, spending money in the local business. Like other business owners see that. They see whether or not you're a part of their community or whether you're just trying to make money from the community. There's a massive difference. Like, what are some things that you guys do or you guys did in your local markets, starting with you, Cory, and then I want to hear from you, Vic, around, because
mine's easy. I just drink a lot.
Oh yeah. Well, there you go. But what are some things that, like some practical things that you're doing in your local community that allow you to have the belly to belly conversations? Like you said, like Cory, you said, you go to concerts, you do all these different things. Are you serving on any boards? Are you doing, like, how are you connecting locally, and how are you making homegrown more known locally so that you can build those relationships?
Yeah. So great question. And it's mostly, so the answer is, I have sponsored some events. Like we had a Durham Refugee Day. There was an organization that I did this local business spotlight on called CWS. They work with resettling refugees into the area. They asked me if I wanted to sponsor this event. And I did. And that allowed me to have a booth. And I just stood there, and, sometimes my wife, and at that time, my daughter would hang out with me at the booth, and people would, and it was simple. People think, oh, I got a booth, I got to get all this stuff. I had a sign with my logo on it that said, "Ask me about real estate." I have more stuff now. I have koozies that I give out and keychains, and I could do raffles and stuff. But in the beginning, I remember I bought the little plastic, sign holder, which remember I didn't even know where to get that. I was like, what do you even call this thing? Went and bought it, and it just said, ask me about real estate.
Yeah, sure.
Sponsorship opportunities. I go to, I didn't do it. I haven't done it since COVID, but before COVID, the bar that I bartended at before I was a real estate agent, all summer they do this like makers fair. and they invite all these local artists to come sell their goods. And I asked them, hey, can I set up a booth? And yeah, I'm not a local artist, but I love local artists and I love to drink beer. And same thing, I would just set up my booth in between, the candle lady and the guy who makes cutting boards, who both of which I would get custom candles from and cutting boards for my closing gifts that I met at this event. And I would just stand there.
Sweet.
Asking about real estate. And believe it or not, people will come up to your booth and be like, what are you doing here? And then that sparks the conversation.
Hi, it's Cody from Sheridan Street. I want to invite you to a free trial of our Sheridan Street appointment engine where we'll send you 3 buyer and seller live appointments for absolutely free. Go to sheridanstreet.io/trial. That's SHERIDANST.io/trial. And you'll get instant access to a free trial of our Sheridan Street appointment engine. Let's hop back into the show.
We were opposite, bro. Like, you know me, dude. I hate standing in a booth. Like, pulling teeth, I have to stand in a booth and talk to people about what I do. I don't, it's not my jam. And I don't love doing it. It just feels, for me, like, even though I love talking to people in their booths, to me, it doesn't feel like me because it feels like a forced conversation. But I was always out at restaurants. I went to the local coffee shops and I always just had my real estate stuff out because I always work. So like, even on my laptop, it doesn't have like the Real Estate Sales Academy on there, but it's got the things that I enjoy. Like it's like, be kind, picture of the project skull, do tough shit, like man up, right? It's got, and that will spark conversations. Like, what do you do, man? Like you got some really interesting things on your laptop and that's just like me. But I think where we did things really well is we were really, 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 really good with our clients. And we had amazing events at the end of the year. We only did one event. We probably could have done more, but we would do an amazing event at the end of the year where my parents would come. My mom would cook like home food. She would cook it at home with like a couple of her friends. They would freeze it. They'd put it in a suitcase. They would bring it all the way from California to Seattle. And our clients super love that, right? Like our clients absolutely love that. And they got to meet mom and dad. They got to hear the story. Like, holy crap, like you guys really put a lot of effort into us. We would have videographers there, photographers. And then as we started getting better, we would have games and balloons. And we had our step and repeat banner that had our logo with the Santa. So everybody that was taking pictures had our logo in the back. And then they had the Santa picture and they would send that out to their friends and family. And that was like their picture because it was a high resolution thing. So I think we were active in the community and like charities and we would go to like support the balls. But everywhere I went, like if I got a check, I went to the bank. I didn't do online deposit. I physically went to the bank to meet and talk to people and let them know that I was supporting local businesses with my spending. And we would try to meet like, Starbucks, dude. If you guys own Starbucks stocks, I don't care, but fuck Starbucks is how I feel. Like there's a coffee shop that's competing with Starbucks that wants to be like 2 centers instead of 1. We would go meet there and I would buy extra coffee and drinks just to support the spot. And I know you like I know you do booths too for your business.
Yeah, like we have a booth coming up at the Real event. Big fan of, having those conversations and making, like supporting the ability for agents to come together and for agents to, learn, because the more learning that they do, like at this event, they have Alex Hermosi, who's kind of their headline speaker, which is going to be massive. It's going to be massive for anyone at the Real event. And if you're in San Diego at that time, come and say hi. I know Vic, you'll be there as well. But Cory, like I want to close out here with like one final question around like local presence and local branding, because I love the fact that you have the homegrown, because like, this is your hometown. Like this is like, like your homegrown. How much do you feel like that has played into the success you've had in real estate? Or do you feel like it's like what, like how much of that has been that you're from the area versus you had to actively put yourself out there and make a name for yourself? Because I think there's a lot of agents that get started the business And it's like, we always like the common saying, your network is your net worth, but you could know people, but they might not necessarily trust you with their transaction, because that happens a lot as well, where it's like, hey, I know this realtor, but like, I don't like actually think they can get me the result I'm looking for, especially on the sales side, where it's like, can this person actually get me the result I'm looking for? Like, I think about specific realtors that have a very big listing business. And whenever you're in a local town, especially even in a small town, I'm not sure how large your area is, but in a 100, 200,000 person area, there's generally some giants that do a lot of transactions. How has trying to carve out your own space in your local market played out for you? And like, what are you doing for the rest of the year and headed into 2024 to carve out a larger portion of market share locally through your branding?
So the town that I live in, Durham, is all about local businesses. Most of the real estate firms that do really well in Durham are boutique firms. Like there's a Keller Williams agent in Durham, but they don't have the most market share. I would say the top 3 most market shares are boutique firms with 50 agents or less. They have the big brands. What I'm doing, and kind of what I focused on, like almost not primarily, but it's the one thing that I've been most excited about, is I started a newsletter 2 months ago, and it's very local focused, and I've been sending out every week. And here's what I always qualify this, because people are asking me like, oh, Cory, what are you like focusing on this year? And I always tell people like, I enjoy writing, right? If you don't enjoy writing, maybe this is not the strategy for you, but I sit down. This is not just a generic newsletter that I send out that Keller Williams gives me, to send to my people. I'm talking about local events. I'm talking about hyper local real estate, statistics. I'm talking about local businesses. I'm talking about road projects in Durham. You know what I mean? Every week I sit down and I'm like, and sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's serious and sometimes it's very data driven, kind of trying to combat some of the headlines that people are seeing. And I've gotten such a great response from not only my clients, because I put everybody on the newsletter. Like if you come into my world, you're going on the newsletter. And I get these responses like every time that I send it out. It's not hundreds of people, but it's like I'll get a text every week that's like, hey man, really enjoyed your newsletter. I didn't know that was going on. Thank you. Like people are just reaching out to me because of it, and I'm seeing the power in it. And it has the double effect of like, I enjoy doing it because I like to write, and I like it kind of satisfies my creative outlet a little bit. So I'm going to really pour into that newsletter. And what I want to do is I want to partner with other local businesses, and I want to have like my YouTube page and my newsletter kind of feed into each other and start building my brand bigger that way. In addition to, nice. I mean, I love on my sphere and my, my past clients here. We do, Vikram, you were mentioning your event that you did. We have the Durham Bulls. It's our minor league baseball team. So every year, my big party is I get a booth at the, or not a booth. I get a box at the private section of the Durham Bulls. Everybody comes out. My lender and I do it together. We have our logos up. People are taking pictures. They're posting it on social media. When you get a booth, they flash your name up on the board at Durham Bulls. And like this town has a lot of pride around the Durham Bulls. So like there's some synergy there, right? I'm a baseball fan. And so like it's a big event that we can do, but it's still like hyper local. And I just love, I just want to keep doing stuff like that. I want to keep finding ways to be creative and have it fuel my business.
It's just having fun, man. When people make this so hard, but when you have more fun, you have more success because you enjoy doing it. This has been great, man. This has been awesome. I know Cody's going to ask where people can find you. Maybe an agent wants to send you some business, or maybe they want to just ask you some questions about how you've gone from long hair to now homegrown. Where's the best place for people to find you?
I'm most active on Instagram at Cory Sherman Real Estate. You can find me there. And if you go on Facebook, Homegrown Real Estate, but Instagram is where I'm at.
Super dope.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Cory, man, want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love this conversation today because I am all about local business. Peterborough, which is where I started my business, Peterborough, Canada, has a special place in my heart. Tons of amazing business owners. And it sounds like you share that same ethos towards just wanting to serve your local community on such a high level. And it's funny, when you serve your local community, they serve you. And it's just how it works. So I want to say thank you, Cory. I want to say thank you for tuning in to an episode of the RE Agent Podcast. If you are a real estate agent out there, you got any value today from this podcast, it would mean the absolute world if you could leave us a review on iTunes, if you could leave us a review on Spotify, whatever platform you're specifically using. If you are on YouTube, we would absolutely love a subscribe. We don't make any money off this podcast. We do this because we want to help more real estate agents win in their market today. We know that there's so many real estate agents, and Vic and I chat with them on a weekly basis. We do daily, dozens and dozens of calls. There's so many agents out there that are stressed, they're broke, they're burnt out, and it doesn't have to be that way. We've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of agents that are doing really cool thing in their local markets. And sure, there are some up and downs. Sure, their transaction volume is down, but by showing up, locally, by showing up daily, by showing up and being authentic, you can make a really massive shift in your real estate business this year. It's about discipline. It's about consistency. And I hope that if this is your first time tuning into the RE Agent Podcast, welcome. I encourage you to go back to some of the episodes that we've done in the past with like Sharon, with Tamir, with some large team leads like Luke Andrews, and they will give you the step-by-step process that you need in order to win in your local market today. I want to say thank you for tuning in. I want to say thank you to Vic and to Cory for just sharing what you guys did locally in your market in order to crush. And I want to say thank you for tuning in. We'll see you soon.